All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Butch Moran. Thank you for listening, for watching. I appreciate you. Also, shout out to our sponsor, Sunny Reds, 1841 Aber Road, just down the way from Highmark Stadium. This is the start of a very busy week here at Talking Buffalo NFL Draft. We'll have draft coverage going all week long, including today, a little bit at least anyway. Tomorrow, Matt Warren will be on the show. Wednesday, Aaron Quinn, final Bills mock draft. We're going to be live Thursday and Friday after rounds 1 and 2 late at night for both of them. So a very busy week here coming up at Talking Buffalo. As usual for this Monday podcast, I'm joined by my under the weather trooper, mad at me for making him do the podcast. Look at all the stuff I told you to don't yell at me about on the show. I'm calling myself out for, but
you always pull that shit all the time. You're like, oh, don't mention any of this. Like we're in the future of the president. And then you come out and you just, you do kayfabe or whatever. But yeah, so I'm a little bit under the weather. But yeah, we're gonna bust this out quick because I need to go to bed, take some NyQuil.
Let me set the stage here for people because we have our regulars now, man. We have our, like, if we were a bar,
you deserted the regulars.
They have the regulars. Typically, Joe and I do this show on the video side live at 9 p.m. on Sundays, and then the podcast comes out overnight into Monday morning. We are recording this very, very late on Friday night. I mean, we're probably going to be around midnight-ish when we're done here. We're recording this ahead of time, so no live show this week. I will say we will definitely be live next Sunday, 9 p.m. We'll have a full draft wrap-up and reactions, all kinds of things next week. I got my Facebook still open here on the show. Anyway, all right, so I wanted to put that out there. If something crazy happens over the weekend and we're not discussing it, that is why. Sunday is Easter. I'm not sure what you're up to. I'm being forced at gunpoint to have dinner with my in-laws and the family. And then Sunday night is Wrestlemania. And we'll talk about that next week or maybe throughout the week on the show. We're not going to get into that today, but I
think you completely destroyed the schedule. I don't know why we're recording tonight. We should have just done it Monday. We could have done a post Wrestlemania wrap, could have done all these things, but no, I need to do you on Friday night.
Well, because I mean, we have a full week of episodes already booked, man. So you're my Monday.
What do you like? The Tonight Show over here booked here? Okay, whatever. Go ahead. You're acting like this is like you can't do anything. You can't move. The thing is like we're not going to talk about Mania the week after because we're going to recap the Bills draft and it's going to be done. You see,
I might. It's possible. It's possible late Sunday night. It won't be a podcast, but late Sunday night, right after WrestleMania, I might do a live.
Yeah, I'm not going to be there though for that because I'm going to be behind the schedule.
Where are you going to be? Where are you watching WrestleMania this weekend?
So it's all
about the show. I'm kind of backtracking. I said I didn't want to talk about wrestling because it's going to be over with by the time this drops. But
yeah, well, tomorrow. So my friend Sam and I watch wrestling always together. So he was supposed to come over tomorrow night to watch it, but then he realized a couple of weeks ago that for whatever reason they decided to do WrestleMania on Easter, which is ridiculous. It's stupid.
It is
dumb. The build has been too damn long. I think that's why everyone's been really pissed off about it. It's just been too long. But he was going to come here tomorrow night, but he can't because he's going away. So I'm going to watch it tomorrow night in my house. And then Sunday he's coming over because he'll be back. And then I'll watch tonight too but I already got, I should show you. You know what? I'm going to show this to you. I don't care. You can waste time right now. I'm going to show you something and you're going to have to wait with me.
All right. I cut him off while he's going to show me whatever he's going to show me. And it's funny because I told him ahead of time with this show that we were going to not talk any wrestling because by the time this dropped, that we would be doing it. What do you got to show me?
I'm back. I wanted to show you this beer, the 316 Austin, right?
Okay.
You gotta love that. That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it is. It is, man.
Oh, yes. I got that for Mania. Sorry, I wanted to show it to you. I would have been drinking it tonight, but as I said, I'm under the weather, so my apologies. But yeah, I thought it was cool. Go ahead.
It is. And like I said, so that's why we're not live. We will be back next week for sure live. I love interacting with our crowd. We got a really good thing going on the video side on Sunday nights, which of course
Yeah.
was in the Monday podcast from.
Shout out to Tooch and all those people. Tooch and
my guy
Colleen
Tooch,
or whatever her name was.
Colleen hasn't been on in a minute. Big Dawson Knox fan. But anyway, all right. So this is what I want to do on today's show. We're going to. I did a countdown, and I'll get your reaction, your thoughts to these. And obviously everyone who's listening. This is the draft this week. The Bills have 2 second-round picks as things stand right now. I compiled a list of my top 20 modern era. Modern era means when the league merged in 1970, for people who don't know that. Modern era, my top 20 Bills non-first round picks of all time. So I'm going to run down that list. Won't take too long. Get some thoughts from you on some of these guys. Also, Joe has, again, being draft week here, you got your Buffalo Bills NFL draft bingo board. That'll be fun. Your true or false segment we'll do like we usually do. And a little bit of news I want to get your reaction to. Now, we didn't plan on this because this just happened. I recorded a show for Friday, and an hour after it was done and in the can and queued up, Trey White signed with the Buffalo Bills. Pretty big deal. 1 year up to 6.8. Those financials we'll see when it comes out. I guarantee you that guaranteed money is probably $2 million or maybe even less than that. A lot of incentives and other stuff to kind of pad that up. But anyway, the big thing is that Trey White is back in Buffalo right now. What was your instant reaction to that?
When I first saw the news, I felt great about it. And it was probably a big part of it was like the feels.
Mm-hmm.
Like Trey White to me, since like McDermott came here, I would say he's a top 5 popular Bills player here in terms of like with fans. Yeah. Bills beat, even like the bro beat loves him because he's quotable, but everyone likes him. Like the Goal League Academy, giving the film, whatever that one thing was where he had the piece of paper or the film and he took it from like the Patriots sideline or something, whatever. Like he just seems like a fun guy. And when he got cut, I think it broke a lot of people's hearts. Like I think we were all disappointed. Like we understood it.
I felt
because
tragic.
he had the 2 ACLs. We kind of got it, but so at that point, I had like the feels. Like it was like, oh, cool, he's coming back. If you have a Trey White jersey, you can rock it. I don't know if he gets 27 or who the hell has that right now, but
27. I think for the safety, the new safety they signed to a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
Maybe
we'll see what happens.
Trey White's gonna have Trey's getting 27.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. He might just say I don't care, but either way, like that's where I got. Then I started kind of thinking about the football side of it. And it's like, here's a guy that he's played only a handful of games since he blew out his ACL the first time.
Yeah.
And I don't really remember how he was the start of 2023. Like, because he got hurt against Miami, and it was like, 3-4 games in? I don't even remember anything about it.
He was great. That first month of the year, he was great. When he came back from the ACL, he was garbage.
Yeah, and then the second year, 22, and then 23.
In 2023, the first month, he looked great. And then he tore his Achilles in the Miami game.
Okay. Well, I'll take your word for it. I just don't remember like how he was. But then he goes to the Rams. It's a disaster there. He doesn't really play. And, whatever you want to believe, whether it was the system, it was odd, like what happened there. And then he goes to Baltimore. And I know on Bill's X, they got, people at the film bros are showing clips of him in Baltimore and like he's making a play. And it's like, okay, like you're ignoring the Rams situation too. Like you're doing the film bro thing that I always hate, which is like, let's just show the highlights and not the lowlights to get those cool impressions and likes, which whatever. I hope they all can sleep at night. I'm sure they do. But with all that being said, there's the football side of it that does worry me a little bit. And I also will say this, like, I'm curious how much Douglas is going to get. I'm assuming Russell Douglas is going to play next year. I'm curious how much he's going to get, because if he gets a lot less, I probably, if you were to ask me, who would you rather have at $6 million, Douglas or Trey White? I would probably go with Douglas because the injury concerns scare me. They really do. And I get it. Like, look, they should, maybe I'm overthinking it because I do feel they're going to try to draft a cornerback within the first three picks. But again, we don't know if that guy's going to start or not. McDermott has like that weird, Like, you can't tell. Like, sometimes he starts guys, sometimes he doesn't. He's weird. We can't.
Mhm.
It's impossible to really dissect. But if you were to ask me who would I want objectively, if I'm just looking at the player himself and not with the feels, I probably would have went with Douglas, to be honest with you, because I
Um,
worry about the injuries history and just that's a
that's
concern for me.
2 major injuries. He's 30 years old now. You brought up a point though, and it's got nothing to do with him right now, but I never thought of it until you just said it. Probably could do a whole segment on it, but maybe down the road. But when you said he's probably one of the most top 5 most popular players of this regime, this era, I'm thinking in my mind, he might be the second most popular player during this entire era. Josh Allen obviously is number 1.
Right.
But just I don't know. Again, it's got nothing to. I'll talk. I got a thought about him as a corner in the signing, and I'll get to that in a second because I haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. But in terms of popularity and what he means to the Bills fans and their relationship, I don't know. I can't think of anyone other than Josh Allen right now. Who
Deion Dawkins is pretty close.
Yeah,
I would say he's really
yeah.
close. Like, he seems like very close. Like, him, you could have probably said Jordan Poyer.
Maybe
Or
Hyde. Definitely
Hyde, yeah. Maybe, like, I would say they were a little bit less than him. I mean, Poyer was annoying on Twitter, and his wife was a piece of work on Twitter as well. Who was the other? Diggs, before the whole thing fell apart, was pretty popular. But yeah, I think it's him. I think if you're looking at how they are now, like today, I think it's Josh, Deion, and Trey. Like, I would say, like, guys have said, like, who have played. Maybe Matt Milano, kind of, but Matt Milano doesn't really talk.
I'd have him in the tier below, probably top 5. No, I don't know, ever talk, and that's kind of his appeal.
Yeah, but he's also really good, and like, he's Italian, and the blue collar people love that about him, I guess.
Yeah, he's definitely Trey's right up there amongst the most popular players of this era. In terms of the signing itself, again, I'm going to throw the money in the garbage. I'm just pretending they signed Trey White and for whatever the deal, because I guarantee you, once all those details come out, that shit is not going to be what it seems like. Unless he plays the whole year and has a great year, then he can reach incentives and can be up to 6.8. But I don't see that. You hit on it a little bit. So he was with the Rams and he sucked. It was a disaster. 4 games he started and then the Rams cut him. I heard your hero Joe Marino talking on Locked On Bill a couple of days ago about Trey, and he was talking about what he was being asked to do. He was asked to play a lot of man and cover guys vertically, and that's just not something that he does well.
Right.
It was a disaster there. So there was some context that he got cut, went to Baltimore. He was a backup. He played in their dime package as a corner, but they played that defense like 30% of the time. And he was much better, not great, not old Trey White, but he was better in Baltimore. I also remember, I don't know if people remember the playoff game.
Yeah, he had the pass interference.
It was a bullshit call too.
Yeah, I remember because
interference.
When I saw that, I had no idea he was on the Ravens. I had no idea, and then all of a sudden, it's like, "Oh, Trey, hi!" And I had no clue he was there. I kind of remember him being on the practice squad, and I just assumed he was on the practice squad still and hanging out.
I believe he was defending Matt Collins. It was an awful call against him. But anyway, here's the good. It raises the floor. I think he's better than Dane Jackson. So I think the floor just got raised. I think it doesn't change. All right. So here's the deal with cornerback. It doesn't change a thing. It changes nothing when it comes to the draft. They're still going to get a corner early in this draft. A lot of people are like, well, now they don't need to get one, maybe to get one in the, their 3rd or 4th pick. No, I'm telling you right now, one of their first 2 picks are going to be a corner. I'm willing. I'm not going to say I'll guarantee it, but I'll wager, and I'm not a gambler. One of the first 2 picks are going to be a corner. Here's the difference, though. With Trey White, there's a couple corners, Joe, in this draft. Shavon Ravel Jr. is one of them, okay? Top 20 talent, but he tore his ACL last year. It might take him a little time to work his way into becoming a starter. Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame, he is absolutely going to be a 2nd-round pick. Maybe early 2nd round. He had a hip injury last year. Again, working his way back. There's Darian Porter's a really talented rookie, but he might not be a day 1 guy. If you have Dane Jackson as your guy, almost any quarter you draft, you're throwing his ass out there, and he's almost certainly going to start. With Trey White now, you could get a guy like Ravel or Morrison, and maybe they don't start week 1. You know what I mean? They work their way into the lineup. But these are guys with high ceilings that long term could be better than the safer day one type guys. So with Trey White, I think there's a little less pressure to draft a corner who's going to start week one. But you're still going to take a corner very early because Trey White is probably almost certainly not the answer and certainly not long term.
I don't know how you can just assume that the guy that they draft would start even with just Dane there beforehand. As I've said to you before, the
I don't know
Bills.
much of Dane Jackson whatsoever.
I know you don't, but go back to 2022. The Bills drafted Elam, okay, and Trey White was just wasn't even ready yet, and Elam hardly played. He was out, first round pick, and we all assumed he was going to get penciled in. And I was thinking about this, like during the McDermott era, like if you were to look at all the rookies that they have drafted, even guys who weren't busts, and see how they did as rookies, a lot of them on the defensive side of the football didn't do much. Like Terrell Bernard hardly played.
Yeah, he didn't play at all.
He didn't play at all. Your boy Doreen Williams didn't play at all. You were pissed off at that because AJ Klein was playing. Yep. Elam didn't play at all.
Nope. Groot's the exception. Groot's the exception.
Benford's the exception. But then you have AJ Epinesa, you have not Doug Basham, that's a wrestler. Boogie Basham. Have him, Boogie Basham. He hardly played at all.
Boogie Basham sounds like a wrestling name, doesn't it? Like if you were wrestling, you were a WWE superstar, and your name was Boogie Basham, you sound like a wrestler.
Cole Bishop didn't play at all, really.
Oh.
Like there's a lot of guys in that and look, they could bullshit you, and you could go, oh, well, they have so much depth, and that's why they're so great, and all that crap. But I don't know if I buy that. It's just weird because those guys, Bernard and a few others, ended up doing well afterwards. And I think to myself, like, is that a part of the process? Like, what if they played right away or played more snaps? Would they have been a disaster? Or is that like their method of we have to redshirt you? I'm just saying defensively outside of Groot and Benford, who played his rookie year, and Oliver played like half the snaps and he wasn't even starting. I don't think you could just automatically assume whoever they draft. Even I don't even care. I don't care if it's a safety. I don't care if it's a cornerback. I don't care if it's a defensive tackle to replace Daquan Jones. I cannot guarantee he's going to play a lot. I just can't, because there have been instances where I have thought, hey, this guy should go in and play, and he doesn't. Like we all I assumed last year, like, oh, Cole Bishop's going to play. Like, there's no way they're going to keep Hamlin on there out there. He didn't play really at all until he got
hurt at camp. But to your point, yes, Hamlin was starting early at camp anyway, too. So to your point,
but same with Elam. I assumed he would have. They brought in AJ Klein because they didn't want to start Williams, and AJ Klein was a disaster. Like there are just a lot of, especially on the defense, and like offensively, it's kind of a little bit different. Like Deion Dawkins, Spencer Brown, they started kind of really
Kincaid at 73.
Kincaid. You can go to Gabe Davis if you want to. And then the running backs, like Devin Singletary was good as a rookie. James Cook didn't do much as a rookie. He was behind everyone. But like, it just feels like on defense, when they go more defense, there's more guys within those first. And I'm not saying a 5th, 6th rounder has to play. They shouldn't. But I have the rule of thumb. The first round guy should play a substantial amount. I don't care if you're a Super Bowl team or not, unless you're drafting a quarterback and he has to sit. First round, you should play. Second round, you should be in that between, like you're getting snaps. And the third round, we'll see what happens. And I just feel like at times they haven't, on the defensive side of the ball, they have guys kind of just not playing right away. And some guys end up turning out great. And you can, if you want to drink the Kool-Aid and go, well, that's good because they have this system and they wait for guys. And
no, I agree. I mean, you're not wrong. There's no guarantee that whoever it is at 30, whatever position is defense, offense, especially defense, going to be defense, that they start. I agree with you 100%. When it comes to Trey, though, I feel like, again, with the corners, I feel like it opens up an opportunity to take a corner that you're not counting on as much, even if they were to begin with. You're counting on even less than for that guy to be a day one starter. But my mindset is also this: if you draft a guy at 30 or 56, I want him to beat out Trey White. You're going to have to go earn it with Trey White. I don't really think the floor is so low, or the ceiling is so low, I should say, with Dane Jackson. You should be able to beat him out at camp. But with Trey, it's going to be funny because he's either going to start or he ain't going to dress. because he has zero special teams value. So if he's not starting, he's not dressing. Just like Kyrie Elam last year. Kyrie Elam, if somebody wasn't hurt and Kyrie Elam wasn't brought up to start, he didn't play. Jamarcus Ingram was the extra corner because he plays special teams and does it well. Dane Jackson, assuming he makes this roster, he can play some special teams. He'll probably be that third corner. It won't be Trey. Trey's going to start, or he won't be active, or he won't make the roster. I mean, hell, man, we don't even know what he's going to look like this summer. It's no given. It's fun. It's fun to think about.
It's a very it's a very high risk, high reward signing, I think, with Trey. Because if Trey does play like shit, then you have to force a rookie to play. Like, I wouldn't be shocked either way. Like, he comes back and he's good, or he's a disaster. I have no idea. I don't, because again, 2 ACL injuries. He's, usually you get that whole, like, okay, after your 1 year of ACL injury, it's kind of a mulligan, and yeah, it worked. Trey White was good the first month here, as you said, but then he got hurt, and then next year was a struggle. Von Miller, I was waiting for him to get better after his ACL injury, and he didn't get better. After his mulligan year.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think it's, like I said, it's a high risk, very high reward situation. I would say for that.
Thought is that a year further removed, he might have more confidence. That confidence was part of the problem on why he struggled.
Let me ask you this though: if you would you have rather had Douglas at that salary? I know let's just look. We don't know how much fake bullshit money this is, but between the two guys, who would you have rather had, Trey White or Douglas?
I would, on the surface, I would say Douglas. However, the fact that we're a week before the draft and the Bills are signing Trey White, the Bills brought in James Bradbury last week. There's a reason why they don't want Rasul Douglas back here. And there's 31 other teams too. Nobody has signed him. He's still out there. I don't know what it is. It feels to me like there's something missing that we don't know about when it comes to Rasul Douglas. Is there some form of injury that we don't know about? Is there some outlandish contract demand that he's holding out for that we don't know about? Is there some off the field shit that we don't know about? Things happen all the time in the league that is not privy to the public, but the league knows. You know what I mean? I don't know. And I'm not going to speculate, but it feels like there's a reason why 32 teams have not signed him. Trey makes sense. And like I said, with Trey, I think it opens up the door for them to be more likely to take a couple different types of corners that maybe they didn't. I think the floor is higher. I think, if nothing else, don't compare Trey White to a rookie. Compare Trey White to Dane Jackson right now. And I feel like we get an upgrade there. Let's get into draft picks here, because the Bills very well may take a cornerback in the second round or the third round or whatever, man. I compiled a list. I painstakingly, because I'm bored and I have no life. I spent hours, and I'm not joking. I spent hours on Pro Football Reference. I went through the Bills' history of their draft, year by year, non-first round picks in modern era. And I got to say modern era, because if we said all time, there'd be like a handful of guys like Butch Byrd and Sestak and Stratton and guys like that most young fans have never even heard of, that would be on this list. But it's modern era. And what I did is I made a spreadsheet, and I originally came up with, I think it was 36 names that I had on my spreadsheet. And then I had to get it down to 20. And I went in 4 different tiers here. And I'm going to count these down. I almost spent a lot of time, at least on some of these anyway. Get your thoughts on these players. We'll count down 20 to 1. And again, this is my top 20 modern era, post 1970 Bills non-first round picks of all time. I got 3 current guys that are on this team right now on this list. And one of them is to start this countdown at number 20. Taron Johnson, 4th round pick in 2018. He was an all-pro in 2023. It's just been a stud for the past 6 years. I mean, it'd be nice to see him stay on the field a little bit more than he does, because he plays very physical, gets hurt. But he's one of the best slot corners in the league. Not really much to comment about him. Number 19, though, a blast from the past. You're old enough to know this guy, Joe Cribbs.
I'm not old enough to know Joe Cribbs. I've heard of him. I was
kidding me,
bro. I was born in 1980, and then he was drafted in 80. What do you think? My dad was making my mom watch football in 1980.
But you're kind of a historian. You know the older players.
I've heard of him. I know he went to the USFL or something, and like Joe Cribs
he
was
was
good.
a second-round pick in 1980. All right, he ran for over 1,000 yards 3 times in his first 4 years with the Bills. I got injured in that one he didn't, and then he got in a big, ugly contract fight with Ralph Wilson. He sat out in 1984 over a dispute. I came back in 85, kind of sucked, got hurt, and he went to San Francisco after that. But his first 4 years in Buffalo, he was awesome. When I did that show with Dell and he asked me who like my favorite Bills players of all time were, I said Darryl Talley, and the other one was actually Joe Cribs. Joe Cribs was the first player that I kind of fell in love with when I was old enough to start watching the Bills. So that's number 19. Number 18, House Ballard, 11th round pick, 1987. Do you believe they used to have drafts that lasted that long? He was an 11th round pick in 1987. You hate mock drafts and draft talk now. Can you imagine if there were fucking 10 to 15 rounds
going on? Those days when no one cared about the draft was kind of like a big deal in the first, second round, and no one cared afterwards. He went out.
80 starts at right tackle, 2-time Pro Bowler, part of the bickering Bills. He had a lot to do with what became the bickering Bills. Your remembrances, quick ones of House Ballard.
Yeah, House was great. I mean, so far with your list, I mean, I think you have Johnson, just to go back to 20. I think you have him way too low. I mean, he should be, or high, whatever. I think he should be like in the 10s. Like, he's an all-pro. Like, you're going through this list, how many guys have been all-pros? It's not going to be a lot. So I think he should be higher, or whatever you want to go. I would definitely put Howard Ballard. I mean, he's a Pro Bowler. If you want the gods out, in my opinion, like the Super Bowl Bills, when they started going downhill a little bit, it was when their offensive line started disintegrating, and Wilford and Ballard left back-to-back years. And I think Ballard left, and for where he was incredible, like where he was drafted and how good he was. So those guys I would have a little bit low on the totem pole, or high, or whatever.
Let me get through a few more here. So number 17, kind of a fan favorite of during the drought era, I should say. Terrence McGee, 4th round pick in 2003, played 122 games with the Bills, his whole career with the Bills. He was a 2-time All-Pro for special teams as a kick returner. He was a number 1 corner on this team for several years. A good player on some bad teams, and a very fun, electrifying kick returner as well. 16. Yeah. This is an old guy here. Ben Williams. And now, if you don't know Joe Cribs, I know you don't know Ben Williams.
No, I heard of Joe Cribs. Ben Williams, I don't know. I've heard of him. I didn't watch. You said like, oh, you watched Joe Cribs. Like, no, I didn't watch him. Fucking, what are you, nuts? Okay. I didn't watch Ben Williams. I'm not as old as you. Did your family
have a no TV policy as well? You weren't a little baby watching Joe Cribs run the ball?
In 1981, I would be 1. I don't remember, buddy. I don't remember what I was doing at 1. I'm sure at 1 you were eating chicken wings and your kids and your parents were feeding on you the fucking table. But no,
that reminds me, you said some shit about me on Twitter the other day. What the hell were we talking about? I don't know. You were you
wanted
I wanted Alex Tuck bobblehead, and you started talking shit about me and then something about chicken wings and this and that, and people thought we were being serious. Well, we were being serious, but it's just
because you wanted someone to get it for you. It's like, go fucking get a ticket and go down there and just get it yourself and leave and go get chicken wings or something. Lazy asshole.
Well, anyway, Ben Williams, 3rd round pick, 1976, played 147 games, all with the Bills, and he had 52 sacks. He was a very good defensive end. He was part of the Bermuda Triangle in those days, which was part of the, I'm sure you've heard of that. I've
heard of the Bermuda Triangle, yes. Yeah, still before my time, but yes, Hazlitt and Fred Smirlis, yes.
There'll be other guys on this list before your time. All right, number 15, Frank Reich, 3rd round pick, 1985, and I'll just put it this way. For his career, whatever, backup quarterback. The Bills don't get to a 3rd Super Bowl if it's not for Frank Reich. Straight up. We talk about all the time, are the Bills a great team? If Josh Allen's, goes down, the season's over, Mitch Trubisky, blah, 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 blah. Bills fans, during the Super Bowl run, Jim Kelly went down, and their backup quarterback, Frank Reich, led the Bills to not 1, but 2 playoff wins, the greatest comeback of all time in the postseason against Houston. And then they went on the road the following week, too. I think it was Pittsburgh or Miami. I don't remember. But I know they went on the road. And Frank Reich was the quarterback for that team. He belongs on this list just literally for that. The Bills and, the record-setting 4 straight Super Bowls, the Buffalo Bills do not go to 4 straight Super Bowls were it not for Frank Reich. So I know a lot of people are going to be saying, what are you talking about? A fucking backup quarterback's number 15 on your all-time list? Yes, it is, because the Bills don't get to a Super Bowl without Frank Reich. You sound like you're not in agreement with that.
I'm not convinced by that. 15 is really high for a backup quarterback. I get where you're at. Like, they wouldn't have made the Super Bowl. He had some key, even regular season wins, like in 90 when the Bills versus Dolphins with the division on the line, and he won that game. But it's not a big enough body of work to me. Like, oh, that's a great draft pick in the 3rd round. It's just, it's a little too. 15 is a little too high for me, buddy.
All right. Well, I mean, I disagree, obviously, but again, they don't get to Super Bowl without him. That's all. I can't come back with any other thing besides that.
I don't get to the Super Bowl and get crushed again. Yes, thank God.
Well, you save them an ass whooping against Dallas, and Don Beebe doesn't become a.
I always wish we could one day interview Bill Polian, or I mean, we can't, we won't. But I would have loved to have known what would have happened if the Bills never won that game against Houston. Like, would they have cleaned house, or would they have traded guys? Because that was a really effed up year. Like, if 11, I'll give you some history. 92.
I think Polian wasn't he gone at that point?
He was supposed to be gone. So they had agreed before the season started, he was going to leave after the season ended. But I'm just curious if they would have done more changes.
Sure.
Because it ended they started hot, and then they were sluggish down the stretch. I think they were 7-5, and Kelly looked like shit. There's a part of me that wonders if they would have lost that game against Houston, would they have changed things? Just one of those weird things I'm just curious about. But anyway, go ahead.
All right, so we're going to leave off 15 just because I'm going to take a really quick break on the video side. We'll literally be back here in just seconds. All right, we left off with Frank Reich at 15. You think that's too high for him. Number 14, the second of 3 current players on this team, Matt Milano, 5th round pick, 2017. He's obviously, look, man, he's been one of the best linebackers in the NFL when he's been healthy for years. He made an All-Pro, and I think he's got the respect around the league, too. I think he's highly regarded as one of the very best linebackers in the NFL. Let me get to 2 more here, and then I'll turn over to you for quick thoughts. 13, Stevie Johnson, 7th round pick, 2008. 3 times 1,000 yards. I believe he had 3 straight years of 1,000 yards too, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. He's 9th all time in catches, and he's 10th all time in yards. So that combined with 3,000 yard seasons during the drought, another very popular drought player here, productive guy, a 7th round pick, and indirectly the guy responsible for what is now known as Bill's Mafia today, which does not impress Joe whatsoever. And number 12.
What? I'm impressed. I'm tired. I'm sick. What do you want me to do? Jump for joy? Keep going. Jesus.
Nate Odoms, number 12. Nate Odoms, 2nd round pick, 1987, 108 games with the Bills. It was a 2-time Pro Bowler. He made an All-Pro once, and he's 5th all-time in interceptions. It was a time where I remember talking about him or thinking about him as one of the most underrated players in football. Him and another guy that we'll get to here in a few. So there you go. So 14, Milano, 13, Stevie, 12, Nate. Any thoughts on those?
I don't. I think, Stevie, you have a little bit too high for me. Stevie, look, he was 1,000-yard seasons. Yes, great. But I would probably have swapped Matt Milano. I think Matt Milano is a better player than Stevie Johnson. Better at linebacker than Stevie Johnson was at wide receiver. Stevie Johnson never made a Pro Bowl or was an All-Pro. Matt Milano was. Yeah. And I feel like, and when you really break it down, Stevie Johnson has had, you said it, he had 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons. That's really it. He didn't do anything before that. He was kind of mid his last season here because, he had A.G. Emanuel. Very popular guy, obviously, but I would probably have switched that. Nate Odoms, he was their best defensive back during the Super Bowl era. I always felt bad for him because he signed a big free agent contract with Seattle, got hurt even before he suited up, then got hurt again.
There was a time.
There was a basketball.
basketball. You're right. There was a time where he was considered, because of the injury, the worst free agent signing in NFL history early on in the infancy of NFL free agency. I remember him being labeled as that. That sucked. Let me point something out too, folks. This is 54 years right now, 55 years actually, of Buffalo Bills drafts. Everybody on this list was a great pick. There's no bad picks. These were all great picks. It's a little bit of schematic, we're kind of being semantics a little bit. Who should be where? That's the fun part of debating. But all these guys, make no mistake about it, were really good to great picks. Number 11, another old guy here, Bob Chandler, drafted in the 7th round of 1971, 116 games with the Bills, 10th all-time in catches, 9th in yards, 6th in touchdowns. Statistically, he was really good. He was the best Bills receiver during the 70s, during the Joe Ferguson era, during the era where we lost 27 or 20 consecutive games against the Miami Dolphins. And now we're going to get into the top 10 with a name that a lot of people know from the drought era. Number 10 for me is Aaron Schobel. 2nd round pick, 2001, 78 sacks for his career, all with the Buffalo Bills, 2nd most ever. I don't know, dude. I gotta be honest though. I don't know what you think. I kind of do. I always thought Aaron Schobel was overrated. I know he got the numbers. It just never felt like his sacks mattered. It was kind of like, I don't know, man. It'd be like a Sabre scored a lot of goals and who gives a shit, in a lost season, but statistically, he looks pretty good. Like Dylan Cousins had a good season. Was he really a great player? Yada, yada, yada. I never thought Aaron Schobel was all that. But again, 78 sacks, 2nd all time. That's a guy you got to have in your top 10.
I mean, he played 10 years here, and I think he would always get that 7 to 10 sack range.
He had a 14 sack season. He had one 14 sack season.
06, I remember. It was with Jaron was the first year. Yeah, but I feel like a lot of his sacks came on blitzes when they brought the house, because that was those defenses, especially with Greg Williams and Jerry Gray, they blitzed a lot. So he got a lot of sacks that way. I'll say this. He kind of rubbed me a little bit the wrong way, because at the end, I just remember this. This was 09, where giving you inside baseball, where Marshawn Lynch and Schobel didn't go to OTAs, and Schobel, the whole thing was no one knew what Schobel was doing, if he was retiring or he wasn't, because the Bills, or actually this was 2010, 2010. So he came back. The Bills were switching to a 3-4 defense. He would have to have played outside linebacker. And it's is he coming back? Because he should be coming back to get reps as an outside linebacker, because he has to figure out if he wants to play or not. And he just kind of ghosted them, and no one gave a shit. But then all the other fucking Bills curmudgeon beat guys at that time were all like, "Oh, well, they have to give Marshawn Lynch. He needed to get in the camp," because they all hated Marshawn Lynch and they had a never-ending hard-on against him. And I was like, "What about where's this Aaron Schobel? Shouldn't he be there?" Because and he ended up before training camp, he then was like, "Oh yeah, I'm not coming back," and it was all right, he retired, and he never has come back. I've never even heard his voice. He's kind of like the Matt Milano of that era, but less of a player. But you never heard his voice. He never talked. And good looking dude like Milano, I guess. I don't know. Never saw. But yeah, I felt he was a little overrated. And
I think I might have overrated him. Had a little too high in his
list. I would have had Matt Milano there, but whatever.
Agreed. Okay. All right. So number 9, the last of the 3 current players on this roster. Which, by the way, and there's a couple that make honorable mention too. The Bills have done a really good job with non-first round picks during the Brandon Beane era. But anyway, this was not a Brandon Beane pick. This was before he got here. Deion Dawkins, number 9, 2nd round pick, 2017, 4-time Pro Bowler. I think he's gotten the respect and the reputation now as one of the best left tackles in the league. As I say that, you know what? In this case, maybe I don't have him too low, because now I think it's about the other guys who are ahead. So anyway, I'll get your thoughts on that in a second. But I got Deion Dawkins at 9. Number 8, Kyle Williams, 5th round pick in 2006. I think he was the most consistently good player of the drought era. Consistently good player of the drought era. Probably the most respected player by Bills fans today from that drought era as well. Let me get to one more, and then I'll turn it over.
Do you remember who the GM was that drafted him?
Was it Marv?
Yeah, it was Marv.
Mouthpiece Marv, because he wasn't
Marv.
he wasn't the real GM. He was basically fucking.
Who knows? The inner circle was terrible. Like whatever the hell.
Oh, dude, I will never, ever, ever, ever forget the 2006 draft with the Bills. Which, by the way, Kyle Williams turned out to be the stud. But
your
that
boy,
was
Dante
the year.
Whitner.
Dante 8th. They move up into the first round to go get John McCargo, Ashton Yabodi in the 3rd, Coach Simpson in the 4th, 4 consecutive defensive guys. And it was 5 because they took Kyle Williams. And it was like, this defense just transformed over one draft. And look out, this is going to become one of the best defenses with Dick Duran in the NFL. And it fucking sucked. But
I just remember Dante was a reach and McCarg, and I remember that like the people were like 8th, and then because remember Nada, the guy from Baltimore was there because they needed a defensive tackle too.
Nada, yeah,
and he's like in the Hall of Fame, I think, or what?
I wanted Vernon Davis so bad that year.
Yeah, and I remember, and their answer was John McCargo, and McCargo, I remember the mocks had him going in like the 3rd, 4th round. I was like, what the hell is this? I was not happy with that draft at all.
Yeah, it was one of the worst drafts in Bills history, but it did land Kyle Williams. Yeah. And I got one more, and I've just realized that when I originally sent you this list, I did share this list with Joe beforehand. I made a change. I swapped 7 and 5, all right? Originally, I had this guy 5, but I actually moved him back to 7, and it's Phil Hansen.
Thank God you did.
7 is Phil Hansen, 2nd round pick, 1991. Look, he was just a consistently good, not great, but a really good player. Look, dude, he's on the Wall of Fame.
He shouldn't be. And he shouldn't be on the Wall of Fame because he's on the Wall of Fame. I could hear anyone make a point of player X should be on the Hall of Fame. Like Stephon Diggs should be on the Wall of Fame. Willis McGahee could probably be on the Wall of Fame. Like, don't get me started on Phil Hansen. Phil Hansen he owes 3/4 of his sacks to Bruce Smith. Bruce Smith playing on the other side. He got on there because he was a quote machine and blue collar, and all the media guys loved him. And those at that time, they used to be the ones that voted people into the Hall or to the Wall of Fame. They talked to Ralph, and he should not have been on. I don't give a fuck. You're gonna be, he's second in sacks in his career. Like, fucking who cares? They've had like 2 good pass rushers. No. He's outside of the top 10 for me. Fuck that. No to Phil Hansen. Bullshit. Bring me Dr. Sack, Leon Seals. Now you're fucking annoying me. He shouldn't be on there. He should not. He should definitely not be on the Wall of Fame. Like I don't know what they're gonna do with the Wall of Fame, but they should use Phil Hansen. Like they could save those letters for another guy. He shouldn't be on it. I'm sorry, Phil. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Well. Maybe I should have had Phil Hansen 7. And obviously, you can tell this is my list and not our. We did not collaborate on this list. I'm getting reactions from Joe, just like hopefully you guys are reacting. I'd love to hear your comments and where you think some of these guys fall into place. All right, so number 6, Joe Ferguson, 3rd round pick, 1973. Look, he's 2nd all time in passing yards right now. He's 3rd in touchdowns all time. Played 164 games, which is the most that any Bills quarterback has ever played. He was a quarterback. Look, in an era where they didn't throw the football as much either, obviously, in the 70s and the early 80s. They were a playoff team in the early 80s with Fergie. Again, he was never one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but just the longevity and, the numbers kind of, I feel like you got to have him up there. He's also a Bills Wall of Famer too, for what that's worth. I feel like it's a good spot for him. So I got him at 6. And then we're in the top 5. All right. Before that, though. So I'm pretty sure you're telling me Phil Hansen should not be right ahead of Deion Dawkins and Kyle Williams. I mean,
I'm sorry. Look, he never made a Pro Bowl. He was just, and that's when the Pro Bowl mattered. He was a guy that had I think he had 10 sacks once or twice, but he just was always, he was a guy who he was rewarded because of Bruce Smith, because of Bryce Pop, and because of Cornelius Bennett. That's why. Those were on the edges, and they probably had a running back cover, blocking this guy. And I'm sorry, I don't mean he was fine. He should not be on the Wall of Fame. That's idiotic. It's stupid. Eric Mulder should have been on the.
He's your DeMar Hamlin. he's out, or he's my DeMar Hamlin, I guess. A lot of people.
No, I think he was solid, but he shouldn't be on the Wall of Fame. I think if you ask everyone who covered, go ask Matt Rich Warren on Wednesday when you have him on. Ask him about Phil Hansen if he agrees that he should be on the Wall of Fame. I know how he feels, and he's going to agree with me.
All right, I will make sure to do that. All right, so we're in our top 5 now. These are my top 5 non-first round Bills picks of the modern era. Number 5, which I originally had 7, but I moved him up to 5. Fred Summerless, second round pick, 1979. He was a 5-time Pro Bowler. 10 years he played with the Buffalo Bills, defensive tackle, 162 games, and a Wall of Famer. The best defensive tackle probably in the history of this franchise. And he was the anchor of that Bermuda Triangle that we talked about there.
You don't think Ted Washington was better?
Well,
I didn't watch Fred Summerless' time. I don't even remember like 1 year with him.
I don't remember much either, man. I mean, again, he was, it was my got into.
He was a quote machine. Everyone loved covering him. He had a good book. His Bills book, by a nose, was actually a really
very popular player. He was like, when I was a very young kid, he might have even been the face of I would even say, along with Fergie, he was probably the face of the franchise for the Bills back in those days. Like, he was Kyle Williams in a way. He was an outspoken Kyle Williams for young fans who were looking for some.
I'll say this funny story, or I remember him. So if you ever have Jeremy White or Howard Simon on again, you should ask them about Fred Summerless when he used to do a radio show with them. They had him on for one season. I think it was like 2007, 8, and he came out like once a week. And he and them got into a huge argument over, of all things, Doug Flutie. Because he loved Doug Flutie, and they were like, yeah, it wasn't that good. And then like he started yelling at them and said, grow some balls to Howard and Jeremy. And they were like, what? And then it was just awkward. And I don't know if they'll remember that. You should ask them about that one time.
Okay.
It was a funny story.
All right. So
on there.
This is number 4. And this will be one more for younger fans anyway. You might be more of an obscure name. And then I'm pretty sure everybody's going to know the top 3. But number 4 for me, Reggie McKenzie, second round pick, all the way back in 1972. 11 years with the Bills. He was a guard, 147 games, 3-time All-Pro. And he was part of that electric company that famous, really great offensive line that helped pave the way for OJ to have 2,000 yards in 14 games and a lot of great seasons. He was a great guard. Joe DeLamielleure was on the other side, and he was an NFL Hall of Famer, but he was a first-round pick. That's why he's not on this list. But Reggie McKenzie, again, if you're not old enough, I'm not old enough, at this point. I mean, I was just barely born when he was drafted by the Bills, but highly regarded as one of the best offensive linemen in the history of the franchise.
Okay.
There's my top 3. And this was not easy in a way. Number 3, Darryl Talley, 4th round pick, 1985. Look, he was the heart and soul of this football team, man. He really was. If you were old enough and watched the Bills, whether you already were older or you were growing up watching this team, there were more talented players. There were players who got All-Pro and Pro Bowl honors every year, and Darryl didn't. But everybody knew that Darryl Talley was one of the most ferocious players. And like I said, one of the biggest leaders, the heart and soul of that football team during that era, man. Nobody exemplified blue collar Buffalo more than Darryl Talley. Let's just put it that way. You agree with that, right? I mean, the dude was
I wouldn't say blue collar. Don't insult Darryl Talley like that. Blue collar is terrible. No, yeah, he was a leader. He was definitely he was a linebacker that made a lot of splash plays. He got sacks, got interceptions, fumble recoveries. He did everything. Like, he was a jack of all trades type of linebacker.
More
the Spider-Man stuff.
Everybody loved that. He talked a lot of shit. I loved it, man. He was
he was definitely like a leader, like a heart and soul type of guy. And they had a lot of those guys on those 90 Bills. But
yeah, and his first couple of years too, he got drafted in 83, and those 84 and 85 Bills were the fucking worst teams of all time. All right, so I got Darryl number 3. I want to get through these last 2 because we got other things to get to in the show. Number 2, Andre Reed, 4th round pick, 1985. I mean, he leads the Bills in everything career-wise, and he's an NFL Hall of Famer. Don't really know what there is to really add to that. He's number 2. I think everybody would agree because number 1 I got is Thurman Thomas. 2nd round pick, 1988. One of the better running backs in the history of the NFL. Won an MVP in 91, and he's in the Hall of Fame. So now to recap that, and I'll post in the show notes the actual list for people who want to look. So the only thing that sounds like you think was egregious was having Phil Hansen as high as 7.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I wasn't a fan of his. As I said, I mean, he was more about longevity than anyone. You know what I mean? Like that's what his career was. Like he played a long time. He played 10 years, but I don't know. I didn't really. He just never moved the needle for me. I always thought he was like the third. He was always like in the front seven. He was always like the fourth or fifth best guy in the front seven to me all the time. Like
you agree with Tally Reed,
and Thurman.
And Thurman. That would be your top three as well. Yeah. All right, let's get to your. Let's pull it up. So it's draft week. When big things happen, free agency, the draft, week 1 of the season, all the Super Bowl, all that stuff. Joe likes to pull out his board, his bingo board. So I'll pull it up on the video side so people can see it. And I will also read off. I'll go by column. So we'll do it over 5 parts. We'll do it like we usually do this. This is Joe's Bills draft week bingo card. I'll read it for the listeners here.
Yeah, and I was sick while doing it, so I didn't have my best sense of humor, people. So it's not my finest work.
There's some good ones in here. Let's start. I'll go down. We'll do the B's first down.
And I want to comment after you say stuff. So let me like.
Right. Do you want me to do the whole or roll and then you comment, or one by one?
One by one.
All right. Well, as long as we fly through it quick enough. All right,
I'll be quick.
DNA.
I mean, that's a Sean McDermott, Brandon Bean trope. They always love using that. Oh, he's got the DNA. They always use that. So DNA.
All right. Next one. Dumbass news reporter asks new player if he loves Buffalo or what they like about it.
They're always going to have that Buffalo News or local TV station guy. Hey, welcome to Buffalo, Jim. What do you like about Buffalo so far? What do you like about the Wings so far? How do you like? I will always remember the Mario Williams press when he came here and like 25. It had all the news people there, and 25. All of them just kept asking, "Why Buffalo? What inspires you about Buffalo? What do you think about the snow?" I was like, "Shut up and get out of here." So yeah, someone's going to ask a stupid question like that.
All right, next B down. Trust the process. That's
oldie but goodie. It's always going to be there. Trust the process.
Next one, Bills Embedded, where Terry Bagula is reading a piece of paper.
Yes, they'll have their 12-minute One Bills live video of them looking very busy in the draft room, and Terry's going to look very serious and look at a piece of paper. His daughter will be there, and no one knows what she does there because no one wants to ask about that. I'm talking about the daughter from a different marriage. We don't know why she's there and what happened to the other kids. You know, who knows? But yes, he'll be looking busy. They'll be having him looking at the menu.
All right. The last one in the B column here. Bills beat bro. I'm sorry. Tweets out pictures of free food in the press room.
Yeah, someone's going to have to just say, look at all this good food we have. They want to gloat. That's how they do it.
Worrell, is he the most likely candidate?
No, it's going to be Beauvais. Beauvais is going to do it.
Beauvais? All right.
Yeah, he's going to tweet out. He's going to show some junk food. Market.
All right. Let's get to the eyes here. Bean fist pumps Sean McDermott.
Always fist pump. I remember they always do the fist pumps, man. That's all they always do.
Next one. Ryan Talbot tips off draft pick selections and gets chased off Twitter.
Yep. There's always going to be that one Bills beat guy, or I mean, in his case, he's kind of a beat guy, I guess. But he is. But he'll be the one that tips off picks, and everyone's going to be angry at him, and he's going to have to turn off his notifications.
Quick pivot here before we continue on with this. Do you remember last year's draft? Do you remember the person that was tipping picks?
Oh,
I do. I'm asking you, and I'm asking everyone if they remember. You'd have to be on Twitter and know who it is, but they were tipping all the Bills picks, and it was completely accurate, and also some other picks around the league. But all the Bills
local picks. Person,
yes,
Joe B.
Nope, it was not a media person.
Oh,
and it was a female. Do you remember?
No, I don't. Who was it?
Ashley Penn.
Oh, Ashley, you're right. I do remember that. Okay,
he had a source. She had a locked-in source, and it was
remember that.
She was dead ass accurate too.
I remember that.
She was tipping picks, all the Bills picks and some NFL picks. It was pretty wild, but she had a locked-in source for sure. So anyway, yeah, that was last year. But all right, let's continue here. Eyes. Draft pick has Quanon retweets.
No, QAnon, not Quanon. QAnon.
QAnon RTs about Hillary Clinton.
Yes, there's going to be a draft pick that's going to be into conspiracy theories, and they're going to retweet that. It will be a QAnon thing. Yeah, it's going to happen.
Is that going to be Reed Ferguson? Well, you said draft pick. All right, so
here we go. With Reed.
Next one. Wide receiver train goes off the rails meme.
That's going to happen. Gonna happen.
You know, who's gonna be?
They'll get a wide receiver in the 6th round probably, and we'll all cry. Go ahead.
Who's gonna tweet it out though? I know who's gonna tweet that out.
Oh, it's gonna be Jeremy and Jeremy or Joe DiBiase.
Maybe both. Definitely Jeremy. All right, last one in the I column. A mock draft pisses off Bill's Twitter.
Yeah, this is before the draft. There's going to be a mock draft because people get angry about mock drafts all the time. Like, why is this guy here? And that's why, that's why I hate mock drafts, because I feel people use mock drafts to kind of measure out where other players are. And you get angry because you're like, that guy shouldn't have gone there because I read 25 mock drafts that had him going in the third round instead of the second round. And everyone gets pissed off. So it'll be like a mock draft that will have like the Bills drafting a running back in the first round or something like that. It will piss off everyone.
All right, let's get to the eyes here. Number 1 draft pick does photo op eating Lenovo wings.
Definitely going to have that, though.
Yep.
I think that's what Sean McDermott was in when they hired him. He had like 2 buckets, I remember, with his family there.
Next one, Josh Allen lobbied for this pick, which, by the way, has happened the last 2 years. The Bills have said that and talked about how you texted Brandon Bean.
He's gonna lobby for like a 3rd round tight end, maybe. Who knows?
Okay. Middle square wants to be here. So always Sabres.
It does have a little bit of Sabres, but yeah, he wants to be here. Maybe, I don't know. It's gonna be like he wants to be here.
Bills draft a running back and everyone loses their mind.
Yes, it's going to be like, is this running back going to take over for Cook? Does that mean Cook's going to get traded? Does that mean, Ty Johnson's going to become special teams Ty or whatever? Someone will lose their mind over.
Quick little add on to that. If the Bills draft a running back, I would say anywhere from pick 109 or earlier, Bills fans immediately are going to start thinking James Cook's getting traded. If the Bills, they got two fourths. If they use that first one on a running back, there's going to be immediate James Cook trade speculation. All right, next one. Nate Gary and Pat Moran have a meltdown over 5th round draft pick.
You're both going to have meltdowns. I mean, you always. I remember last year I had to talk you off the edge. You were so angry about the Bills draft, and you came on here spitting fire and snot, and then like you had to listen to Joe Marino to calm you down. And then you're like, I was a little bit angry about it, but you know what? That draft class, does it look that good right now? No,
I think I was kind of right, to be honest.
Okay, well, it's still early, but I will remind you, though, if we have to give it like 3 years. So in 2027 or whatever, if that draft class doesn't change, I'm going to give you props and be like, Pat was the only guy who had a full-fledged meltdown during the 2023 draft or 24 draft, what the fuck year it was.
The one I did, the only pick I liked was Cole Bishop, and I don't know how I feel about him right now, but I did not like Keon Coleman. I did not like the pick at the time. I'm just...
Yeah, you were angry. I remember you were angry.
All right, let's get to the second last column here. These are the ends.
Okay.
Bills draft pick thinks Buffalo is an hour from New York City.
That happens. They always think they're coming in there. They're going to see Jay-Z or Frank Sinatra or whatever the fuck, and they find out, no, you're closer to Canada, buddy.
Josh Reed doesn't know how to use the mute button on a Zoom call.
Hey, you know what? I'm picking on Josh because I think a couple weeks ago there was a Zoom call and he didn't know how to work the mute button, and it was kind of funny. But yeah, I'm picking on him. He's going to have an issue with that.
Next one. Cover One loves every draft pick.
Death, taxes. Cover One loves every draft pick.
Next one. Bills draft a player who thanks Jesus when drafted.
Yep. Look, they love the religion guys. Someone's going to say, I got to thank Jesus and God and Mary and Joseph. Mary should get some credit. I mean, she gave birth to Jesus, for God's sakes. But and she was a virgin too. Jeez.
Last one in the ends. He was arrested, but we checked it out and it was fine.
Yes, it's a quote because they're gonna draft someone who has a checkered past, and then Brandon Bean's going like, "Oh, kids are kids," and he was arrested, but we checked it out. He's fine. Next.
Do you still got some Matt Ariza vibes going on?
Oh God. Yeah.
All right, last one here. We'll get to the these are the O's. Thurman Thomas sleep-in montage.
Yep, that used to be my old Twitter profile during this time of year. I used to have the Thurman sleeping, and we will see there'll be a montage of like draft day fallen guys who fell, and then he's going to be one of those guys. They always have the video, and he'll be like sleeping. So
new Bills player has a tweet about ranch and wings.
Yes, there's going to be someone who's going to go look in the past, see what their blue cheese and ranch cravings are, and retweet them and be like, he's one of us, or he's not one of us, or we need to train him and put him to Jedi school of ranch and blue cheese. Maybe Manic can train him or whatever. Whoever
during their rookie introductory press conferences will get asked about wings or get asked about blue cheese and ranch. It is a tradition.
It's going to be a news dork too.
And a guy who will have to lie or say he's likes ranch, but he's willing to try blue cheese. Yeah. That's just all going to happen.
I just hope whoever gets drafted, I'm sure they'll smile. Make sure you smile because Stephon Gilmore didn't, and I think Bills fans never forgave him for that. And so smile.
Here's the mid one here. Well, this one is always a good one. Brandon Bean sunglasses meme.
Yep, that should be in the free space because that's always everyone, the content bros, the Bills beat bros, the fans. They can't wait to tweet that out, and I think they get $1 from Boyko every time they tweet it out.
I'm gonna do the bottom one next and then the other one last because that's the one I think that people would most associate what you would say with. The bottom one says we follow the draft board and pick the best player available.
They always say that we follow the draft board. That's their MO. Everyone does that.
A gazillion percent. And there's Joe's last one. Bills bro beat golf selfie on Sunday.
Yes. So after the draft, they're all going to be tired. Oh, they were exhausted retweeting the draft picks and asking their one question every day. For the last 7 days, writing things, doing podcasts, and then they're all going to go out and have a golf outing on Sunday. I'm sure you'll be there as the caddy, and you'll be like, "Hey guys, I'm here. Why don't you be on my podcast too?" Yeah, but hey, you got to enjoy it. Enjoy the golf bros, whatever, on the fairway or whatever.
I think the weather's supposed to be pretty decent in Buffalo. On now, you got me interested because I actually think I think legitimately it can happen if it's nice out. It's supposed to be 56 high on Sunday with partially sun, some clouds. Yeah, that could happen. 50% chance. All right, let's before we get out of here, do you got a true and false?
Yeah, I'm getting on my phone, so you gotta wait for me, buddy.
Yeah,
we're high end over here. I've already gone past an hour, so you're lucky. I'm a nice guy. All right, so true and false.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, true or false? The Bills will draft a quarterback this week.
False. Okay. False. Nate Gary, by the way, on the show last week, that was one of the things, his bold predictions that they were going to draft a quarterback. I don't see it. Maybe a 7th round flyer where you got nothing to lose and you stick him in a practice squad. But again, if you draft a guy in the 5th round or sooner, you're going to roster him. No, I don't think so. So no, I think it's false. Next year they draft a quarterback.
Okay. You will not go to a game at the new stadium. True or false?
I will not go to a new game.
Yes. You're not going to go to it.
It's false. I will barely ever go to a game, but I'll be at some point talked into going to games. Look, if you're new to this podcast, I've made this very well known. I fucking hate going to games. I don't like going to games. I'll go tailgate. I just don't like going as a fan anyway, sitting in the stands, freezing, watching a game, missing a bunch of shit. I'd rather sit at home, watch it, or go somewhere with a bunch of people. It's not my thing. But
so you think you will go to a game? Okay.
Eventually, somebody will talk me into it. I'll get peer pressured.
But why would it? When was the last Bills game you went to again? Do you remember?
You know what? That's a great question.
I feel like I've asked you this before. You don't remember. That's why I don't buy that you're going to. Like, I don't think you're going to give a shit.
I have not been to a Bills game and I say this as a fan because at one time years ago I used to get a credential and cover some games. I have not been to a game. It was probably since before I moved to Florida. I moved to Florida in 2016. So it's probably been, and it's probably a couple of years before that too. Probably been at least a decade since I've actually been in the stadium for a Bills game.
I cannot believe you don't remember, but that's why I don't think you're going to go. You're not going to go.
It okay. Longer than that. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. Braveheart is the best war movie of all time. True or false?
False.
False. Oh, what do you got? What's your favorite?
Oh man, what's that goddamn movie? It's an old one, man. Oh,
Full Metal Jacket, Apocalypse.
It's Full Metal Jacket.
Oh, Saving Private Ryan too. That's on there. Okay.
Those too violent for me, and I don't know if there's just something about Full Metal Jacket that, for whatever reason, I like. I hate Mel Gibson, by the way.
No, he's a putz. He's one of those guys that like. We all have like if he. It's kind of like I used to love him in like the 90s, Lethal Weapon, Braveheart.
Yeah, he was good. That was
now he's a putz and he's hates everyone. He's a douche, but
yeah, he is.
Braveheart was a great movie though. That was like epic. The music, it was awesome.
One of my wife's top 5 favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, all right.
Not for me.
Last one, and when they're listening on Monday, they're gonna know if you're right or wrong. True or false? John Cena will beat Cody Rhodes for the title on Sunday.
Real quick, because again, we're talking about something that's going to have already happened, but I just want to preface this by saying the only thing about this WrestleMania that I really truly am looking forward to watching is there's a main event where I don't know who's going to win. I don't know.
What?
It could go either way, is what I'm telling you.
No, you got to pick true or false. True or false.
Okay, I'm getting there. My point was this. I don't know. Like, I know Jay, when you listen to this on Monday, Jay Uso is going to win the world title. He's going to beat Gunther. I know that. There's other matches I know. I don't know who's going to win the John Cena, Cody Rhodes match for sure, is what I'm telling you. But anyway, if you're making me answer, I say true. I think John Cena wins the title.
I agree.
I don't think it's going to be a long run. There's going to be a twist. The Rock is going to, there's going to be layers to it. Maybe a swerve that we didn't even see beyond The Rock coming out. I know Steve Austin, though, is in Vegas right now because he was on the Pat McAfee show on Friday. So we'll see. But anyway, to answer your question without getting into a match that's already happened by the time people see or listen to this, true. I do think I think John Cena is going to win. I don't think it's going to be a very long run, but I do think he's going to win. They've done a lot of work to get him as a heel. The heel's got to win and cheat and get the belt for a little bit, at least anyway. Put Cody back in the chase for a little bit. So true.
True as well. I agree. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's small talk and stuff like that, but you know what? Joe's under the weather. We're after midnight on Friday. I apologize to our regulars one more time here. Our Sunday night live chat video regulars. We will be back next week. This was fun. I mean, we talked. Look, the rest of the week we're going to be talking prospects. So it was nice to kind of.
Not me. I'm out of here. I ain't coming on this podcast to talk about any of those prospects.
I kind of like that though. People don't listen. People ain't tuning in to listen to me talk to Joe from Queens to get his takes on certain prospects. And
I
stuff.
used to care a long time ago, and I used to like read up on the draft. And I cared but it was mostly like I would just read mocks. And I probably I didn't really watch highlights, but it was mostly mocks, reading up. I would write about them when I did Buffalo Wins, when I did the website back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
But then once I stopped writing about them, I kind of started once the Josh Allen draft happened, I kind of stopped caring as much. I don't know. I just haven't gotten into it.
I hear you, man.
It's just not my jam.
It was nice to kind of turn back the clock a little bit too and go over some old names from Bill's draft past. The bingo board was fun as well. Thoughts on Trey White, all that stuff. Thank you everybody for listening to the show. Thank you, Joe, for making my life a lot easier, because if we didn't record this tonight, I legit did not know when I was going to be able to have a chance.
Yeah, I wanted you to have a good WrestleMania weekend because you don't give a shit about religion. You're all about seeing Mania and not being bothered. That's why we're doing it. That's why we're doing it tonight and not on Sunday night, because you and I are both nerds.
Well, I appreciate Joe very much. Again, I appreciate everybody for tuning in, and I'll be back. Matt Warren's going to join me tomorrow, and then the day after that, Aaron Quinn will be doing our final Bills mock draft. Talk to you guys soon.